abandon hanging out with harmful people and respect the ordained. Or your people, you know, your Sangha brothers and sisters also. People who are on the same path. People who share the same views and the same ideas. So respect. Harmful people can be your best friends who say, what are you wanting to meditate again? Let's go to the movies. Let's go to the beach. Let's go and have sex or something like that. This can be harmful people for your practice. So also when somebody makes you really upset and angry and you can't deal with it, keep away from them. Because they're not helping your practice. If you're not strong enough to transform the aversion towards the person and you just get grumpy and angry, then separate yourself from that person. Yeah? And then when you feel, then you practice with, you work with that aversion, but from the distance. And when you can go back, you think, okay, I go and try again. And when you feel that the aversion is kind of loosened up a bit, then you can stay there with difficult or harmful people. Okay? So at the beginning, in the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, it says at the beginning, go away. Go away from your homeland. Again, that's an advice for Tibetans maybe. Yeah, go away from your homeland where you don't know anybody. And it's true, because when I was in New Zealand, I have no friends in New Zealand. I don't know anybody. So when I didn't have teachings, no telephones to make, no coffees to drink with somebody that I know, no hanging out with people. So I had a lot of free time to practice. Also, when you're not in your homeland, because sometimes we can get very upset about the political system in our homeland, where if it's not your homeland, you don't really get upset about the whole thing so much, yeah? Because you don't identify with it. So you're protected from that. That's why. So first you go away from the homeland, but then afterwards you go. When you realize, you go and stay and try to help difficult people if they want to be helped. Do you understand what I mean? It depends where you stand with your practice. So just this, in Buddhist practice, to kind of find out, okay, what do I practice now? Where do I stand? For that also you need a lot of instruction and you need a lot of wisdom, and again the awareness to really be able to see what's going on in your mind. Okay, so we finished the middle scope. We finished the lower scope. Okay? Meaning, if you know that you have all the conditions present and you appreciate to be able to listen to the teachings, think about them and meditate on them, go to classes, being in a group, really working with your mind so that your life is not too difficult. So that's the first step. Then you ask yourself, will it last? No, it won't. You think about impermanence and death. So the first topic is precious human rebirth, okay? You appreciate it instead of just wasting it for whatever. Second topic of that is it will not last. Okay, so if I want to do something, I need to do it now. What am I going to do? So this is trusting the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha and taking care of my actions of body, speech, and mind. If you do that and you purify what we have already created, you would have a good human rebirth every time round. Then you see even that still has a lot of dissatisfaction in it. So, compared to places like the hell realms, the hungry ghost realm, animal realm, human existence is incredibly good. But still it has shortcomings, it has flaws. So that's what we're going to look at now. Okay? So that we create what is called renunciation, wanting to get out of samsara, wanting to kind of not to take on every time after death a new heap of body and mind which are contaminated. Contaminated, polluted through wrong views. Yeah? You see, our body and mind, we have our body because we're attached to existence. The mind at the time of death is looking for a body because it's used to have a body and it wants to have pleasure. So in order to have pleasure, you need a body. So then it's kind of its desire that projects your consciousness into a new body when you are in the bardo. Whereas a bodhisattva, somebody who is realized, if they are reborn, the cause for that is compassion, because they want to help. Okay? So our body-mind comes from delusion and suffering. It is suffering, and it creates more suffering, whether we want or not. So I know it sounds terrible sometimes. You know, when you hear it, it sounds like, boy, there is no hope. But there is hope if we go step by step. That we are careful to have the good conditions to be able to practice again in the future. And maybe even, you know, one of the King of Prayer says, may I always remember my past lives. If I would have remembered my past lives where I put a lot, and all of you, where we put a lot of effort into practicing ethical conduct, we would have started with Dharma practice long ago. I only started when I was 40. It took me quite a while to understand, hey, this is a good thing that I could do. Yeah, although I had the conditions before. Yeah, you see what I mean? If we would remember the effort that we made in order to get this human body, we wouldn't waste it. And wasting is not just not doing anything with it. Wasting it is also doing unnecessarily unethical actions. Like, you know, people who already have a lot of money, but then they're corrupt. Why? What for? I mean, what a waste. That they have a lot of money is the result of having been generous. Now, them being corrupt is probably the result of already then maybe practicing generosity with the intention of getting something back. Like the motivation is not pure. Yeah? Or trying to find happiness in possessions, and since you can't find it there, then that the mind says, oh, I just need more, and I just need more, and I just not need more. I mean, there is like people on this planet, they will never be able to spend their money in one lifetime. So why having so much? Yeah? But also it's people who share it. And then it's a good thing to have money. Otherwise, if you just keep it. Because if you're very rich and you're very stingy, I mean, my teacher always said, he said, such a waste. You know, they have so much money, they can't even spend it for themselves. So what's the point? Yeah? What is the point? Okay, so we can get somehow quite despair and think that there is no end. But yeah, there is an end. This is why we practice this progressive path. So when we have the conditions, also then in next lives maybe, then we will put more effort into it. The more realized we are, the more we will be attracted to these things. This is why these dedication prayers are very important. That, you know, in all my lives, never be separated from the magnificent Dharma. May I always have contact with teachers. And practice the 2 stages and attain the state of Vajradhara, something like that, something that inspires you. Yeah? Okay, so we're on page 8. So what one studies on the middle scope are 2 things. One is the teachings on the Four Noble Truths, and one is what is called the 12 links. Okay? Dependent arising. So the 12 links we can leave aside. So we'll look at the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths starts with the first Noble Truth, the Noble Truth of true suffering. And it's called dukkha sometimes. So then the Buddha gives us these lists. Yeah, page 8. And we will all recognize what is in there. That we will not need a lot of teachings here, that it is not satisfactory. Except for like the 3 types. Yeah? But when it comes to the 6 and to the 8, it's very clear. So the 3 types are the suffering of pain. You see, the thing is, the Buddha said, this is the noble truth of suffering. you have to understand it. And then he said, I understood it. So he's quite arrogant when he gave his first teaching. But also it took him quite a while to start teaching, because he thought, what I found is so profound and I will just confuse people more. So I was thinking that in the break. I thought, like, I wonder if I'm confusing people more than actually I'm helping them. So, and I'm not the Buddha, so it's like, yeah. So I kind of thought, maybe they fall into even wrong views that they already have. So if we understand suffering, some of you are half lying down, some of you are sitting on chairs, some of you are moving. Why? Why?
Our backs.
Why?
Pain, discomfort.
Because you understand that the pain is not satisfactory. So you try to do something about this. The moment we understand that this is not satisfactory, we're trying to do something about it. The only thing is, half lying down, sitting on a chair, sitting on the floor, lying on the floor, it will also turn into pain after a while. And then we have to move again, and again, and again. And this is the second, the suffering of change. This is our existence. We're always adjusting. Getting up, lying down, getting up again, sitting down, going for a walk, sitting down. It's too hot, we go into the shade. It gets too cold, we go into the sun. You know, we're hungry, we're eating, then we have eaten too much, so we have to wait a little bit, and then we eat again. This is our existence. Constantly warding off suffering. And we call this an interesting life. Suffering of change. Whatever we do, it always turns sour. Like, you know, this whole effort to build up so many worldly things, possessions, friends, relationships, reputation, diplomas, intellectual knowledge and all this, for what? For what? Like knowing, you know, the cosmologists, knowing all the names of these stars and how they move. For what? To leave it all behind. All collections end up running out. Everything that comes together will fall apart at one point. The high, no matter how high they get, they will have to fall. Every meeting ends in separation. Every living ends in death. And this life after life after life after life. Now, if there would be no way out, fine. You know, we just settle into it, say, yeah, that's life. That's what many people say. They say, well, it's human, that's life. Everybody has to go through it. I make the best of it, and that's it. But the Buddha says you can get out of this if you understand the causes. Yeah? If you first, what you need to understand is that this is suffering. So not just the suffering of pain, this we understand. Even animals understand that. But also the suffering of change. That no matter what we do, we will always have to change something in order to be comfortable again for a short while. Yeah? Then the all-pervading conditioned suffering means that 24 hours every day we carry with us the potential from being totally happy and quite comfortable to go into pain. Mental pain, physical pain. The potential is always with us. You find that satisfactory? Yeah, it's like carrying a bomb around with you that has the potential to go off at any moment when the conditions come together. Or they say our existence is like a match. You strike it, it will burn. Or our existence is like a thorn bush that we have on our back, on the bare back. You move forward, it hurts. You move backwards, it hurts. You move to the side, it hurts. You move to the left side, it also hurts. So in order to be free of that pain, in order to be free from the suffering of all three sufferings, you have to throw off that thorn bush. So the suffering of pain, the big pain, huge pain, with ethical conduct, I think we can do a lot about not having too much suffering or pain. Yeah. Delusions, especially wrong use, if we start to work with our attachment and aversion, also quite okay to be able to get rid of suffering of change. But the view of inherent existence, then we still have the all-pervading conditioned suffering. And even if you are, in the highest realms, you still, if you're not liberated from samsara, they end and you plunge again. So this is usually what is being said. So that is kind of taking stock of our existence. Yeah. So what we are trying to ward off is only the suffering of pain. Suffering of change, we think is fantastic because that's our pleasures. We run after them. Yeah. So when you look on page, what is it? 12 or something. Yeah. When you look at page 12, seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Being free from this having to move all the time, being free from having to adjust all the time, being free from having a mind that whether we want or not, it creates karma. And even our positive actions are flawed because we do it with the wrong view of a real me doing a real action to a real other. Okay? So we have good rebirth, but then all this is present. Yeah? You go back to page 8. What is also part of our existence is uncertainty. There's nothing we can be sure of. To have with us 24 hours a day the potential that from being in a very good state, when the conditions change, we get depressed, anxious, angry, all of a sudden a sickness is breaking out, we fall down, break a bone. Our mind and our bodies are so fragile. It needs very, very little for them to, maybe suffering is too strong, for them to be uncomfortable. Just, when you are alone at home one day, take a day, and every time you do something, you check, why am I doing this? In the morning, you wake up, you think, nothing to do. You lie in bed. How long? Until 10 o'clock at night? Definitely not. Or if you do, you need to take your phone or you take your book because all of a sudden you can't sleep anymore and it gets boring. So maybe you get up. You need to get up. Why? Unless you're a man and have a bottle with you. So you don't have to get up.
The bottle is full.
You need to go make pee-pee in the morning, isn't it? So you have no choice. So we say, part of our existence, but you decided to stay in bed the whole day. You can't. It's impossible. Then you make breakfast. Why are you making breakfast? Because you're hungry. Then you stop eating. Why do you stop to eat? Because you're full. And then maybe you go back to bed. Then all of a sudden that again turns sour. That is the suffering of change. But we carry with us the potential to, even though, all the conditions outside are perfect. You are with your family, they all love you and all this, and you can be in a terrible mood. Yeah? And as long as we have this, which comes from wrong views, there will be dissatisfaction to some extent. Especially also the dissatisfaction of impermanence. Everything finishes. Even very high states. Now, the Buddhists, they accept this as being true. Do they seem depressed to you? I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the Dalai Lama, Ajahn Chah, Thich Nhat Hanh. People who have realized that existence in samsara is unsatisfactory? Do they seem depressed? Why not? Because they're in touch with reality. That's what it is, and they accept it as reality. We are like somebody who goes out and it's raining, and then they complain that they're getting wet. We're complaining, we're constantly complaining about these things, not understanding that this is part of our existence. If we want to have a human life and a human body, we have to take this with us, whether we want or not. So what's the point of complaining? So you either stop complaining and you say, yeah, that is part of my existence. I get born, I need to grow up, I need to learn all these things, I need to learn how to walk, how to go to the toilet, how to talk, how to go to school, the whole thing that I learned I don't know how many times already, I have to learn again. Then I need to kind of build up a life that I can be independent, I need to have a family and then need to take care of them, and then I get older and my capacities kind of decrease, and at the end I have to leave everything behind. So if you find that satisfying, by all means. If you don't, here you have the explanation how to get out of it. So all you need, you don't have to invent the wheel here. You only have to take up these practices. It's as simple as that. But they're not so easy to practice. Do you understand now? I mean, you ask somebody, are you happy? If I ask you now, are you happy? What would you say? Yes. Then I would ask you, you cannot be happier?
They can.
Yes. So how can you be happy? If you can be happier. Or, when I had to make a health insurance when I came back from India and Switzerland. So the person, if we were on the telephone, so she asked me, are you healthy? I said, well, what do you call healthy? I mean, I'm 57 at that time, and sometimes I have backache, my knees are bad, my hearing is going, I have a tinnitus, I have glasses. Do you call this healthy? And then she said, yeah, but right now, are you healthy? I said, well, what do you call healthy? So we both started to laugh. There is no such thing as a healthy state. Healthy would mean you cannot be healthier. But we all can be healthier. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? Yeah. And this happiness that we have is so fragile. And it needs so little to go. Something like Benzi has his cup and it's standing there. He moves, goes on your computer. Then ask you, Safar, are you happy? Oh. And it's just a computer. Where is the pain? My computer. If you do it, also you get upset, but you get much less upset than when somebody else is doing it. And it can happen all the time. All the time. Yeah, we're exposed to that. There's no way you can protect yourself. You can make, I'm not alluding to that wall that is here, you can have a house, you make a big wall around it, you let nobody come in. You have no guarantee to be happy, even if nobody disturbs you. Because somebody also, there was a group from Israel, parents from Israel, who came to see at Tushita, who came to see what their children are doing. Mothers and some fathers. So I had to give him a talk, and then I talked about anger. And somebody said, yeah, it's easy for you, because you're here in this protected area and this protected environment. Of course you don't have anger. I didn't say I didn't have any anger, but that's what she implied. And I said, you know what? How about you go for 1 month on top of a mountain, and then you try to see if up there you don't find your anger. You carry it with you. We carry that with us. Wherever we go. Then sometimes, people go in retreat, all of a sudden they get upset about how the river flows when there's a river next to their hut, and they start to change the stones in the river. Or they get upset about the birds. Or you get upset about somebody who brings you something. We had somebody like this at Tushita. Oh, and she was constantly in retreat, and her hut was like silence in retreat, the signs. And don't come and don't trespass and all this. And so I had to bring her something. I was really afraid to bring her something. And then I thought, hey, what is it? What is happening here? Sure enough, she shouted at me. So, you're disturbing my retreat. So like this, so even if you isolate yourself from all these conditions that you think make you upset, try it out and see in what state you are. Try it out, if you can, if you have time. Your next holiday, rent a hut on top of the mountain. Nobody comes up there, no electricity, no water, no telephones, no internet, no nothing, no contact with the outer world, and see what your mind is doing. This all-pervading conditioned suffering. It will kind of, the mental suffering will kind of catch up with you. All of a sudden, you're all alone. Like, ooh, I thought I was courageous. And then we were doing a night retreat, a church night retreat, where you kind of offer your body to the spirits. And it was in a forest, which is like total darkness, like the center is in a forest. So then in the breaks, so I thought, okay, I'll go out into the forest. Oh, I was so scared. Irrationally I knew, come on, you're in Switzerland, it's like midnight, and who is going to come? But because you called the spirits and you offered them your body, and at one point I was walking down the path and there was a bush of like grass, dried grass, and I had a torch, so I jumped because I thought it was somebody. There we can see, how courageous we are in conditions like this. Yeah. And the nice thing is, if you do practice, you see your states of mind. So you're still panicking and you're still afraid, but you laugh because you see how ridiculous this is. So you're able to not to dissociate in a way that you don't have to fear anymore, but to really be with your fear without identifying with it. Yeah. It was really funny. I saw how much fear I have, when it's totally dark and I'm totally alone. And it seems that I do believe in spirits. Oh, yeah. So that's what I mean. It can catch up with us anytime, whether we are in society, out of society, wherever. So what is also then, what he said was also there, like the first one, uncertainty. There's nothing we can be sure of. There's not one person that you can 100% rely on that they will be there for you when you need them. Not one. Not even ourselves. Not one. And still, we're longing for security. There's no security. So this is why Pema Chodron's slogan is like, feel comfortable with impermanence, feel safe in security, or something like that. I can't remember what it is. Anybody remembers? Feel relax into uncertainty. Or the other way around. Feel comfortable with uncertainty, relax into impermanence, or something like that. Yeah, we start to see, hey, this is part of my life. It's okay. It's normal. So the moment we start to see it as normal, we do relax. Yeah? And what they always say, like about Buddhism, the bad news when you understand what Buddhism is all about is like falling from the aeroplane without a parachute. What's the good news? Not those who have already heard it. What could be the good news there? What do we imply when we fall from an aeroplane? Huh?
You will end. It will end. You will end.
No. There is no ground to crush. There's only continuity. But that could be also one, but that's not what it means. To really understand Buddhism, there is no ground to crush. Now, sometimes we have a feeling as if we're standing with the back to the wall. How many of you have had that feeling? Maybe even said it. Yeah? Okay. Was there a wall where there was no continuity? Anna? There was no wall. Who is creating the wall? It's our mind. There's always continuity. It always continues somehow. Yeah?
And so the thing is that usually is it so it happened to me many times that I
So it's a good thing. We start to trust. We start